Welcome to the Breech Birth podcast. I'm Sasha Hopkins, private midwife, breech birth educator, and your host. This is a space to hear the real, raw, and powerful stories of women who have experienced breech birth in all its layers. Each episode features honest conversations with women who've experienced breech firsthand, offering insight and reflection. This podcast was born from the knowing that these stories need to be heard, to inform, connect, and reclaim the story of breech birth. Whether you're navigating breech birth yourself, supporting others, or simply curious, welcome and thank you. Hello, Jaime. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi. Excited to be on.
Thank you. So, to begin our story sharing, would you mind telling me what year your bubba was born?
Yeah, so she was born this year in March, so 2025. Yeah.
And where were you located at the time?
So Tweed Heads, like northern New South Wales.
Yep, beautiful. So Australia for anyone who's outside of there. And what kind of care did you receive in your pregnancy and birth?
So I opted for private midwifery care for my pregnancy, yeah.
And you had was it a planned home birth or hospital?
Planned home birth.
Beautiful. And just to give a bit of a telling of what we're going to expect, was a vaginal birth or a cesarean?
It was a vaginal birth.
Beautiful. Thank you. So I invite you to just maybe, if you'd like to share a little bit about yourself and how you got to this point, if you've had babies before, and then feel free to dive into your story from there.
Where to start with me? I'm a clinical nutritionist, not currently practicing in that sort of field, but also a yoga instructor, which I've sort of been working mainly as for the past 2 years. And yeah, did my pre and postnatal yoga teacher training sort of mid 2023, but haven't again sort of gone into that area yet with my practices, because everything sort of that happened, and then my partner and I were trying to conceive, and then I fell pregnant mid 2024, so I haven't just had that opportunity to dive into all the things that I want to do with those studies yet.
Yep.
But no, I feel really good about having had that yoga practice throughout my pregnancy and sort of kept up with it up until 32 weeks.
And you had babies before? Is this your
No,
first?
so this little bub here is my first. My partner and I did experience a miscarriage early in 2024, and then we conceived this little bub in June, I think last year, mid-June.
You chose home birth for your first baby?
Yeah, I did. I don't know, I guess for me it was sort of something that was coming up, seeing more of it on social media, and it just sort of felt like it would be more in line with everything I believe in, I guess, like sort of natural health and working with the body. I'm sort of the first out of my family to opt for a home birth, but know that I've got 3 older sisters, and one of them had quite a traumatic first sort of birth experience in the hospital, and has since that sort of had cesarean sort of basically because that's all that they felt to offer with her next pregnancies. I think like I was sort of umming and ahhing about it because part of me was like, oh, but like the cost of it, but then at the end of the day it's like, well, what is that when you're thinking about like this little person and their life and how they come into the world. So it sort of put it into perspective of like, it's just money, and at the end of the day it isn't really that much in the scheme of things. So when I fell pregnant early 2024, I got in touch with my midwife, and we never actually met sort of for that first pregnancy. Like I was in Japan when I found out I was pregnant, and then got back and we went for the scan and sort of found out that the pregnancy, when it got into a certain point when I thought I was further along, and then that baby sort of passed. But I sort of was able to, I guess, lean on my midwife at that point in time and have her there for that support, even though we never met. And then when I found out I was pregnant with this little bub, got in touch with her and was just like, hey, so I'm pregnant. Are you available for this month? And she was like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited for you. Like, absolutely. Like, let me just check. And then she was like, yep, I am. And I'm like, perfect. It was really nice when we did get to finally meet, and I think went through just a few extra precautions. Like I got my HCG levels checked a few more times sort of in those early weeks just so I could have that reassurance before we went into our first scan, wanting to make sure that what we were coming up to was going to be positive. Once we had that, everything's fine. Yeah, met up with my midwife, and I think back at that time, I still needed to get the doctor referral letter, so was sort of checking in with my doctor up until 12 weeks. And then just had those monthly checkups with my midwife. Yeah.
Beautiful. And were they in your home, or did your midwife have a clinic space that you went to?
So I met up with her a couple times in a clinic space, and then she just did home visits. Yeah, I like that aspect of the private midwifery care as well. That, like, I didn't have to try and schedule, like I didn't have to go anywhere and time it with trying to get somewhere and find parking. But yeah, it was just the ease of or pay for parking. Yeah, but yeah, it was just that ease of they came and visited me, and it was really nice, and I'm glad I opted for that, for the private midwifery care. Yeah.
Beautiful. And at what point did you realise or discover that Bub was Breech?
So we found out she was Breech at 38 weeks, but
Was that a
really,
scan or your midwife feeling your belly?
My midwife and my second midwife feeling my belly. But yeah, really interestingly, like I had quite early on in the pregnancy asked my midwife, like what was the go if Bub was Breech, like, just for the odd chance that it would happen, when statistically it's probably the chances aren't that high and most babies do turn head down, but it just sort of felt like something I needed to ask her and find out if, that was meaning like a transfer to hospital if she was Breech, or if like a home birth would still be possible, and if that was something sort of she was comfortable with and trained in. So I think I was 14 weeks when I asked her. And
oh wow.
yeah, like really early on I was just like, I think I'd come across someone else's birth story and they had found out Bub was Breech, and like I've chatted with her, and she found like her midwife wasn't trained, so she transferred to hospital. But I guess that's something I want to ask, because I would more than happily like have a vaginal breech birth. Like I think I knew it was possible, and I'd started listening to like the Great Birth Rebellion podcast, and I'd come across a few mentions of it happening, and it just sort of felt like something that was doable. Yeah. Even though, like, again, it's nothing that's happened in my family, and it was just something that came to mind. I was like, oh, I want to ask about that. You know?
And how did that conversation go? Was your midwife trained, comfortable, competent?
Yep. She was like, oh, like that, like I'm completely fine if Bub is Breech. Like, I'm trained for that. We can still do a home birth if that's what you're wanting to do. Like my partner and I again went to Japan for 5 weeks. So I was 32 weeks pregnant and went overseas and then came back. We had our midwife appointment when I was 38 weeks, and met my second midwife. And yeah, that's when my second midwife, she did a little palpation, and she was like, oh, I think that this little Bub might be head up. To my midwife, she was like, did you want to have a feel, because this baby a little like better than I do? Then they were both like, oh yep, she's Breech. So yeah, it was like, okay, so this is actually happening. Like, yeah. Again, like the conversation was, do you want to have a scan? We can, you can go see someone, or try and have someone spin her head down. And I was like, if it's basically just the same as like a head down baby, like birth in a sense, like, and you guys are comfortable, then I'm happy not to go sort of speak to anyone and just go along with it. I can, as I said, I had done my pre and postnatal yoga teacher training, so I was like, well, I can do all the moves and try and encourage her to turn, but, or just try and encourage her to get her bum down into my pelvis. So she was like up and down and not oblique. But yeah, so I think it kind of came to 40 weeks, and I was like, cool, she's like got her bum down, head up, like that's all I wanted to know. Yeah, she was
Yeah.
more in an optimal position in that breech position.
Yep. Longitudinal is what it's referred to.
Yeah. Then obviously when I did find out she was breech, my midwife was like, oh, legally I've got to refer you on, to speak to an obstetrician, but the conversation will sort of be like you saying you want to sort of birth her naturally. They'll probably give you their options, and then you sort of, go from there. And I was like, yeah, I don't really want to have that conversation. I'm sort of confident in my ability and to birth her how she wants to be birthed, and yeah, like know that you guys are competent and capable of supporting that.
Yeah.
Like the reason I have you here is if you do spot an emergent or like something that kind of comes up that we need to transfer, I don't have to think about it.
Very lovely. That's great. Awesome. So going into labor, did your waters break? Did you start contracting? How did it all begin?
Well, I was quite fortunate because we had the cyclone weather just literally the
Yeah.
week she was due. And I was like, so what if she decides to come during all this? And she was like you can video call me or you can go to hospital. And I was like, okay, I'll just stay inside, just stay
Yeah.
safe inside and, wait until the weather's calmed down. And literally like the week it finished, yeah, she decided to come. It was also good because my partner had been on call and was out in the weather, sort of managing all that stuff. And he, yeah, like went off being on call the Wednesday she was born. But he had gotten a call out on like the Tuesday night, and then I had a midwife appointment that Wednesday morning. So I don't know what it was, but I had a dream that she was coming that Wednesday, and like was working for a flower preservation artist sort of locally to me, and had gotten up, rolled out my hips because they were aching so much that morning. And then just remember having this dream where I'd gone really early to work for this lady, and then I was like, hang on, like I've got to go, I've got a midwife appointment. And then I was like, I don't think I'll be back. I'm going into labor. And so that morning when I had my midwife appointment, I was like, so you might be hearing from me later today because I had a dream that she was coming. And she was like, oh, okay, like, that sixth sense sort of thing. And then my partner sort of had the delay start, so he went off to work, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna head out, get a couple more things that we need, and then as soon as I'm driving down the hill from my place, I started having Braxton Hicks contractions, but then it was like that sort of like period cramping that I'm getting now, and I was like, whew, okay, I haven't had cramps like this in a while, so I was sort of breathing through it, and I was like, should I be leaving home? And then I was like, no, I'll just go out, I'll just get what I need, and then yeah, like got there, sort of kept having these like cramping and was like, okay, just get it, Jaime, go home. And then messaged my midwife to let her know that that was happening. And she was like, okay, exciting. So I managed to get home after getting curtain rod from Spotlight for our back door to put a curtain up so we could like block out the light. Important things, And then messaged my midwife, was like letting her know that that was happening. And, I was telling my partner, and I was like, okay, I'll put on my music. I'll just like start relaxing, and I don't know how long this is like going to go for. So, I'll just sort of setting the mood. And then I was messaging my partner. I was like, oh, could you see if you could get eggs? Because I was just like, I just want to see if, maybe I can like make brownie to have for after the baby's born. And, one of those things I was like, would be nice to have brownie. And so he got the eggs, thankfully. Yeah, then I'm like messaging my midwife. I had lunch, and then I was like, oh, okay, bowel movements are sort of coming and they're runny, and then I lost my mucus plug, and I was like, yeah, pretty sure this happened. So she was like, okay, exciting. We run in Queensland time, and then it would make sense if my partner got home. So yeah, he gets home around like 3:40. I'm starting to try and make brownie while I'm having these actions. I've got my birth comb, I'm like squeezing it through them now, and then he gets home, and I'd like messaged him before, and I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure this baby's gonna come soon. He's like, what, like tomorrow, next week? And I'm like, no, like today, like my dream. um,
Yep.
and he was like, okay. So yeah, he's gotten home. He's just like seeing me like sort of hunching over the kitchen island, sort of like breathing heavily, and he's like, okay, getting the curtain rod up, like starts getting everything ready, and it's just like, oh, okay, yep, we're on, and yeah, I'm just like trying to make this brownie, and then all of a sudden I'm like, nope, I can't do this. I've got to go to the shower. I'm gonna go in the shower now, and yeah, I think like I was starting to, just make noise as well, just like yeah, it was getting quite intense, and I was like, oh, hey, like maybe can you like message our midwife and just let her know that I might need her in like an hour or two. Um, yeah, I think I'll need her soon. And he's like messaged her, and he's like, oh, she's gotten back saying, it's up to you when you feel like you'll need her. And I was like, okay, I'm kind of okay at the moment. And then I got out of the shower, got my bathers on, come back out to the kitchen, still trying to make brownie. And then I got to
Good
the point where I was
distraction.
like, yeah. And then I was like, no, definitely can't do this. And I think at that point I went to our bedroom and was just like, I'll just lie on the bed. And then the next second, like with the next contraction, my waters break. So then I was like, oh my gosh. It was just like, I don't know, like, like a water balloon burst or something. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
literally the sensation. I was like, oh my gosh, it's like all over the bed.
Did you have
I got to,
a plastic sheet on your bed at all, like to sort of
no.
protect it a bit or not? No? Oh, whoops.
Yep,
Whoopsie.
yep. I'd actually bought like reusable puppy pads, and
Oh,
I was
yeah.
like, I should have put one of those down. It's like my water's just broke, and he's like, what? So yeah, he's just rushing to grab that, and yeah, like setting up the lounge where we were setting up the birth pool, and I was just like, yeah, I just like sort of make sure this is like, there's this and this, and I'd kind of like this, and he's like, okay, and he's like running around closing the windows of the house because I don't think he wanted like the neighbors to hear as much as they were. And we told them, but he's just like, oh, I'm just gonna close the windows. And then I'm like, he's helped me get back to the bathroom so I can like rinse myself off. And I was like getting down on the floor, and he's gotten me like a foam pad to just like kneel on because we have like the tiles and everything. And I'm saying to him, yep, I think I need my midwife. Tell her to come now. And we laughed about it later, and she's like, yeah, it kind of went from you being like, I think I might need her, and like, yeah, I'll be fine. And then she was like, and then the next message I get was, nope, come now. So we were just laughing about it. She's like, that happened quickly. And so then I'm saying to my partner, is that birth pool ready yet? Is there water in it? Is there water in it? What's going on? And he's like, it's like inflated and it's half full. I'm like, okay, take me there. I'm gonna like get into the pool. I just need to be in the water. And I think I just found my spot. Like I tried like sort of lying back a couple times, and then ended up just finding that kneeling position and gripping onto one of the handles. And yeah, like I don't even know. Like I think when he messaged my midwife, it was about, I'd like to say like 4:30ish maybe. And I think she came around an hour later. And then like I only knew that she sort of got there because the hand that was sort of like rubbing on my arm went from like a calloused one to a nice soft feminine hand. And she's like, you're doing really well. And I was just like just zoning into like one spot of that birth pool, squeezing my birth comb. I didn't really want to, I guess, in the lead up to birth, I was like, didn't really want the words like pain and things like it was going to hurt like in my brain space. But yeah, super intense sensations. And I'm just, I guess, yeah, it was painful, but like it was a different pain than your usual sort of one. And I just kept thinking, no, this is helping bring this baby closer to us. And then all of a sudden, like I just had these sensations to push, and yeah, they just kept coming, and I was like, I don't know how anyone could ignore this sensation, because all of my body was just saying push, like push, kind of move her out. She's wanting to come, sort of thing. And yeah, and then I just sort of remember like my midwives checking in on like her heart rate every now and then it was sort of like, oh, like her legs are out, and oh, she's about halfway, she's up to her umbilical cord, and yet one arm's out, and then yeah, it just sort of all seemed to happen, and yeah, and then I just remember uh, eventually they were like, oh, you've just got ahead, you've just got ahead. If you move maybe like this leg and get into this position, it'll create more space. So I did that, and then next second, yeah, her head's out, and they were just like, she's out, she's out, and I was just like looking for her in the water and found her and just yeah, picked her up, and it was just I don't know, like all the emotions, and I think having gone through like a loss, there was just tears and joy and everything. Yeah. Um, was quite funny. So like I had my mother-in-law here, and sort of more so like for my partner, for him to have that extra support, and then and literally probably a minute or two after she's been born and in my arms, my sister-in-law ends up calling my mother-in-law. So she's my sister-in-law is in Greece,
Oh
and
yeah.
she's called her just out of the blue, sort of, wanting to touch base with her mum. And I was just like, I remember looking blankly at, oh my God, like, is that phone ringing? And was just like, what? And then Casey, my partner, was just like, it's Lexi, it's Lexi. And I was like, okay, that's fine. So they got her
I'll
on
allow
video.
it.
That's fine. If it was anyone else, I was going to be like, you're dead. But no, I think even my midwives that were like, just like,
Yeah.
then I was just like, no, that's fine. And she was like, oh my gosh. Yeah, it was sort of, that nice excited moment, and yeah. And then I don't know whether like she told my partner's other brother, but then I don't know if he was calling his mum later being like, oh, I'm coming up, and she's like, no, 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 don't, because
No.
like birth hasn't finished, she hasn't finished yet. And he was like, okay. So yeah, but so this little bub, she was born 6:56, and my midwife got to ours probably around 5 o'clock. So it was a really quick birth.
Yeah.
Um,
Especially for your first. Yeah.
yeah, and I thought like, sure, this is, going to take a while. And then, yeah, just everything was like, okay, no, this is really intense. And, I think having listened to a few podcasts, oh, if you're standing and walking around, you're sort of really in that early labor bit. And then if you're sort of moving down towards the ground, and I was like, yeah, well, that happened pretty quick.
Yep. There was no baking brownies anymore.
No, there was no baking brownies. Oh, and then the funniest thing, like while I was still contracting and in the birth pool, I remember just saying to my partner, I forgot the butter. I forgot the butter and the wet ingredients. And again, my midwife is just looking at him like, is she insane right now? What is she going on about? And I was just like, well, if anyone was going to finish making the brownies, they had to know that there was no butter in that wet ingredient bowl.
I absolutely love the things that come out of women's mouths when they're in labour. It's just, what?
Yeah.
What are you thinking about right now?
Just everything.
You do. You think about everything. There's so many things that go through your mind.
It's like everything and nothing. It's like, yeah, just a weird space to be in.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so she was born, and then it did take a while.
And she was born in the pool?
Born in the pool, yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Sort of the only hands-on from my midwife was at one point her umbilical cord was wrapped around one of her arms. So one of them had come out, and then I think her right arm was just sort of wrapped around. So she just sort of got her finger in and like yanked it down and got that arm released. So yeah, that was really most of the hands-on that they did.
And actually my first question, was there any meconium, so baby poo, coming out when you started pushing, or before that point?
I think as her bum was descending, she was sort of letting out her meconium and pooing.
Yep.
And I thought maybe I was pooing, but then later, like my midwife was like, oh, I think it was my second one, was like, oh, there's like all these little fluffies, like little meconium fluffs floating. She's like,
not yours.
Not yours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know what kind of breech? Was she a frank breech? Was she complete, incomplete?
She was a frank, so she came bum down
And their legs
first and then
extended up with
legs.
her body?
But she wasn't fully like, I guess a lot of people like say, like, I guess with the Frank, their legs, because they're up so close to their head, it takes a while for their legs to come down. But I
Mm-hmm.
think she still had quite a lot of room in my belly because I was sort of getting kicks lower down near my hips and then
Yep.
sort of onto the side. So I think she sort of had quite a bit of leg room. So
She was
even
able
like
to
by
shift, yeah.
day one, she had her legs pretty much down.
Yeah, okay.
And we did end up getting body work done. So we saw an osteopath for her,
Mm-hmm.
sort of just to check on her hips. And even the osteopath was like, you wouldn't have thought she was a breech baby. Like, yeah.
Yep. Did she need any osteo for her head? Sometimes with breech babies, they get caught
So
in a funny
she,
position and breastfeeding can be affected.
I don't know if, I didn't notice breastfeeding being affected, but she like
Yeah.
did sort of, I think there was some overlapping of maybe her little bones, her
Mm-hmm.
skull bones. So I had noticed that there was like a sort of extra little lump on her head. And then since we've had that done, it's not there.
It's
And sort
helped,
of
yeah.
she maneuvered that.
Did you, just going back to your pregnancy, did you have any body work yourself? Just, I know you were doing
I
yoga, but did you have any osteo yourself?
I ended up having some osteo before we went to Japan,
Yep.
and I went and had like a massage, but and I did have one when I got back from Japan, but I didn't have a heap of body work. I'd had acupuncture really early on, sort of in that first trimester, just sort of to help with everything then, and nerves and everything. But yeah, I didn't have a heap of body work
Yeah.
throughout the pregnancy. Just yeah, felt like I was moving quite a bit and was resting when I felt like I needed to, and yeah,
Yeah. Beautiful. Awesome. So you birthed.
Lilith, yeah.
Beautiful. And so you birthed her into the water. And did you birth your placenta in the pool as well, or did you hop out?
No, so I was probably in the pool for about an hour
Mm-hmm.
afterwards. It took three hours for the placenta to come.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I ended up hopping out probably an hour after she was born because it was getting cold in the pool and we just sort of hadn't reheated it. And I was like, no, think I can get out. So then I moved to the sofa, was lying there for a bit, and there was one point when, obviously with like the excitement, my mother-in-law was talking to my partner and just sort of having a conversation. Then I was like, shh, squeezing his hand or tapping his
Mm.
hand. I was like, shh. And then he was
Yeah.
like, okay, mum, shh. And then I think she kind of didn't get the message and was still talking. And I was like, squeezed his hand. Can you just like stop talking right now? I'm trying to get this placenta out. Or like,
Yeah. Yeah.
wanting to just
It's still birth.
concentrate and it's still birth and,
Yeah.
still wanted all the quiet. And yeah, my midwives were just sort of there massaging my legs and yeah, it just sort of felt, I had to say to someone after, I was like, it just really felt like I didn't, like I had midwives there, but it just felt like there was like all these beautiful, like it was a good group of friends,
Mm.
friends that were there and there to
Yeah.
support me. And yeah, it was just beautiful. And I said that to one of them after, and she was like, "Yeah, but that's what it's meant to feel like.
Mm.
That's what it
Yeah.
should feel. That's what it should feel like." Yeah.
Yeah. And that's that
Um,
beauty of that continuity. You've developed a
yeah,
relationship with
yeah,
your midwife, so they already know you, you know them. It's like
yeah,
having a friend.
yeah. It is. So it was just really beautiful. And then, so I was on the sofa for about another hour, and they were like, "Look, do you want to move to the shower? Maybe that warm water." And just sort of being in that space, and it's dark in there, and you can sort of be in your own little space again. So
Had you disconnected baby from placenta
we
yet? Yep.
so cut the cord, and it obviously like being quite a, like 2 hours since she was born. So yeah, she had
Mm.
obviously gotten all that blood that she needed
Yep.
from the placenta. And then she was having cuddles with dad and having skin to skin with him. And yeah, I went to the shower and ended up getting a couple of yoga blocks stacked up and getting into like a supported squat, which yeah, was how I birthed the placenta. And it was at that point, it was just like a sigh of relief. It was like, yes, it's like that's out because it was just, okay, when is it going to come? And my midwife had given me like a herbal tincture
Mm.
um when I got into the shower, and she was like, oh, we do have the other synthetic oxytocin in the fridge if you want to use that. And I was like, nah, I'll just see how I go for another bit, and then nah, I reckon I can get it out like sort of on my own. So yeah. And then
And
yeah,
were you bleeding at all beforehand, or it was just not till
not
after?
not heaps. I think there was like a bit of blood, but they could tell, like my uterus was doing all the things
Yeah.
it needed to do. It was contracting and pushing down and working to get the
Yeah.
placenta out. I think my mother-in-law sort of by that point that I got to the shower, she's like, oh, should it be taking this long? I could hear them being like, my midwife being like, oh no, like, her birth was really fast. Like, so it's expected that it will take a bit longer for her placenta to come. So they weren't really worried at all, obviously. And like, I wasn't bleeding to the point that they were worried.
I think with that stuff as well, it's important to think about the energetics. It could be as simple as that phone call. It
Yeah,
pulled you out.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. And that's enough. You've got to come back into that birth realm and
yeah,
back into that sensation of, okay, I'm still doing this. I still need to tune into that.
yeah. And I think that was sort of like the point when I was like, okay, can you guys just like, I know you're excited,
Yeah.
baby's here, but I need you to be quiet.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
I think they
Setting
were
that
like,
boundary.
yeah, I think my midwife sort of were picking up and like, oh no, maybe she just like needs her own time and needs her own space. So yeah, and then obviously
So
like
great that you were supported as well to continue that at home, because sometimes when it
yeah,
takes a while, there's talk of transfers.
yeah, yeah, and I think that's probably what my sort of mother-in-law was worried about. Later I obviously, being in labor and not really paying attention to anything else, like but later my midwife was like, oh, yeah, your mother-in-law was sort of like pacing up and down in the kitchen. She was,
Yeah.
I think, more worried than anyone else. Like even my partner wasn't worried. And yeah, I think because my mother-in-law had her third baby, her daughter was Breech. She found out she was Breech,
Oh,
and
wow.
um,
Yeah.
she hadn't wanted to turn, and then I think she'd gone into labor and she ended up having a cesarean with her. But so I think maybe for her it sort of felt like a bit of like a worry, like, oh, like is
Yeah.
she going to
She's
be able
got
to
her
do it?
own experience
Um,
there. Yeah.
but because she was at a midwife appointment when we met our second midwife, and so I'd wanted her there to have those things said by my midwife, saying, okay, we want to keep the space quiet, we want to like do all this. So I wanted her to be on the same page as everyone else. And even after that appointment, she was like, oh, I'm so glad you're so supported by your midwives, because it made me realize there was things that weren't that amazing when I gave birth to my sons, and even with just like in the hospital system that weren't amazing. And it
Yeah.
sort of obviously made her realize. And even afterwards, she was like, I would like 100% tell anyone who's pregnant to have a home birth now. The
She's
care,
converted.
yeah, she is. She's like, the care you got like was just incredible. So yeah, she's definitely converted. And
Yeah.
I think it was nice for her to like witness that. It was funny. I didn't want my own mum there. I just was like, no, mum, I can't. I can't have you. But I can like have her because I know she's not there for me. She's like there for my partner more so.
Mm.
And it was her like first grandchild, whereas like for my mum it's like her 10th grandchild. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Amazing.
But then yeah, I think so. I did have a small chair, like
Hmm.
from birthing Lilith, and that was just we didn't do anything. It just sort of healed naturally. And yeah, like even after the birth, just having that, continuity of my midwife coming literally the next day, 2 days after that, every other day for that first week just was amazing.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, having her visit sort of up to that 6 week point, yeah, it was really good.
And how was your breastfeeding journey?
So I think my nipples like got a little bit cracked because obviously it's something new. You've never
Hmm.
had, someone suckle on them that long. And so I think just sort of with that inexperience, there was a little bit of cracking, but I did have my midwife check and she was like, no, your latch looks really good. And she seems to be feeding. She's not clicking or making any weird noises. So she seems like she's fine. I think it was just sort of that newness of it all. And then I think yeah, when my milk came in, just my right breast was so engorged. It was like, holy hell, like what the heck is like going on like here? Like, my gosh. So I just ended up having like an ice pack on it pretty much that day and night, and knew that I sort of had to have her feed off it, even though at that point my nipples were sort of hurting. They were a bit sore. Obviously, with all the milk in there, it was like, a little bit more, yeah, sore to feed from it. But I think by the next day, the next 2 days, it was all fine. And yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. And how soon did you end up taking her to the osteo? How many weeks was she?
So she was 2 weeks? Yeah, 2 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Beautiful. Awesome.
So
So you've given me an impression of how your mother-in-law was about the breach and her. She obviously had a bit of background there herself in that experience.
yeah.
What was your partner like? How did he feel when you found out that you're
Uh,
having a breach and your approach with home birth? Sounds like he was obviously on board for home birth at the beginning as well.
yeah, well, when I sort of mentioned to him, he was like, "What? Home birth?" And I was like, "Yeah, there will be midwives there. There will be a medical professional there who could spot if there was a need to go to hospital, but I just don't want to really have to go into the hospital." And as soon as I sort of said, there's going to be someone there who knows what they're doing, he's like, "Okay, that's fine, if that's what you want to do." And then he was sort of the one when I had a bit of a cry. I was like, "Oh, it's just like, it's so expensive." And he was like, "It's just money." And I was like, "Oh,
Mm,
yeah." So he was really supportive about those things that came up. And that's how you want to give birth. So that's just what it is. Like, yeah, it
mm,
is just what it is. And I was like, okay.
yeah,
And then when we found
definitely.
out she was breech, yeah, he was just like, so basically the same thing still happens. He was just like very
The
much
mechanics are the same.
like he didn't want to see her come out, but I remember I was just okay. So we got onto the Breach Without Borders website, and they have the video sort of demonstrating how,
Yeah.
babies might come out if they're in the different breech positions. So I was
Mm,
like, oh, so this is what she is, and this is how she's technically going to come out. So he did watch that demonstration on the website, and I was like, but just so you know, and you're sort of aware of what should be happening if anything kind of comes up. And he's like, okay.
yeah.
So he was really supportive, and yeah, I just know for him, even if we'd gone to the hospital, he probably would have gone into like a little shell and sort of yeah, because he sort of has moments where he experiences anxiety and stuff like that, and I just thought, well,
Yeah.
even for him being at home where he's comfortable and this is his space as well, he's going to feel more comfortable with the whole process. So yeah, and when I say that to him, he's like, yeah, like 100%, like I would have hated being in the hospital. I hate going to hospital as it is sort of thing. So yeah.
Did you feel empowered with your choice of birth,
Yeah.
where you
Yeah.
chose to birth and with your care?
100%. I think like as I said, when my midwife said she had to legally refer me on, I was just like, nah, I don't want like I didn't want that conversation, and I didn't want that energy coming into sort of my pregnancy and the lead up to birth. So yeah, I just knew that I was capable of it. Yeah. And like I did say to my partner, like, if by any chance I have to go into hospital, if I have to have a cesarean, like I would do that. But yeah, it just was not how I guess I envisioned my birth, and it literally happened the way I wrote it down. Like my midwife had said early on, or like there was something like a handout, write down how you sort of envision your birth, and yeah, it will just so you have that vision. And I read it back to her like before we had our discharge appointment. I was like, yeah, just like listen to this. And it's like literally how it happened, basically. Like maybe I pictured it going a bit slower with it being my first birth, but yeah, other than that, the room was set up how I envisioned. I had nice soothing music. Yeah, I had the people there that I knew that would support me, and yeah. So definitely
Beautiful.
feel empowered by it. And I don't know if I would have gotten that in the hospital system, even if I'd, opted for having the same sort of midwife and gone through like that midwifery program. I don't know if that would have happened if we had found like
Yeah, I think in
yeah,
that setting, it comes back to the hospital policies and what guidelines they follow,
yeah,
and whether they're skilled and comfortable and competent as well, because that
yeah,
is also another layer to it all.
yeah. And that's it. Like I know, I think from sort of doing my own research, like in the hospital setting, sort of providing that natural breech birth may not really be an option because of the training not being there, or, something that they do because, again, they don't really opt for providing that in a sense. Yeah.
Unfortunately, in many
Yeah.
places.
And I know, like I said to my midwife, that, when I was doing my pre and postnatal yoga teacher training, like I had a lady who was coming to my yoga classes regularly who was pregnant find out that her baby was breech, and I sort of asked her, like, oh, is there any chance that like there's a provider that can give you or help you or support you in like a natural birth? And she just sort of like, no, like I'm having a cesarean. And I think I could just sort of tell that that wasn't what she wanted. Again, maybe she had like an amazing birth, still felt empowered sort of at the end of it. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful. If you knew what you know now, would you make the same decision?
Would have done that even if she, like, obviously, if she was head down, everything would have happened still at home. But yeah, with her being breech, I was just like, nah, she's still going to come out the same way. And yeah, when we met my second midwife, she was like, oh, she's just going to come out and she's just going to wear you like a hat for a moment. And so
That's great.
I just was like, okay, cool, yeah, and laughed about it like you're laughing. And then when I had her, I was saying to my second midwife, like, oh, so, you know, sh did she wear me like a hat then? Like, was I a good hat? And she was like, yes, you're a very good hat. It was, kind of off to the side. She sort of did like came out this way, and
I
yeah,
love it.
yeah. So we
I've
had a
never
bit
said
of
that to a client, but that's going to crack me up now.
yeah, yeah. So we had a giggle about that. Yeah, no.
Beautiful. Is there any advice or wisdom you would like to share with any women listening to your story that are expecting a breech baby?
I suppose if you just feel like for me, it felt like it was something I was capable of, and like, I think we all feel like there's an impossibility to things, but I think as women, we are capable of doing the impossible. So, it has to sort of sit with, right for them. But as I said, like really early on, like it felt like something I had to ask my midwife. And I was like, was there something that I just, intuitively knew that she was going to be breached? But I don't know, maybe there's just like a knowing for that woman that sort of has come up. And yeah, I think we're all just sort of capable of doing impossible things. And yeah, just listen to your gut, and if it feels right, and if you feel like, you're capable of doing that, if if what feels right for you is having a cesarean, then obviously go with that. Like, there's no right or wrong in birth. It's just, you've got to do what feels right for you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And were there any resources, you mentioned Breach Without Borders, is there any resources that you would recommend for women who
So
have a breech baby?
I yeah, looked up them, and I
Did you
did.
do their online course or you just watched some
I didn't
videos?
I didn't do the online course. I just watched some videos and looked at the resources that they had on their website, and a few other sort of videos that they had of women birthing breech babies. And then I listened to, I can't remember which episode it is, but there was like an early episode on the Great Birth Rebellion about breech, and I don't think I listened to the whole thing. I listened to part of it, and then maybe a few other podcasts here and there. But yeah, I think the Breach Without Borders is a great resource for women who sort of find themselves with a breech baby.
Yeah, I definitely recommend the Breach 101, their online course for parents and birth workers. It just gives you a good snapshot of the research and what you need to know. Yeah, beautiful. Is there anything else you wanted to add or share?
Um, no, I think that was everything. I did end up having the post-birth brownie. My partner had to finish making it the next day.
Added.
Yeah, out of the butter. But apparently I had made a different error with it. I was like, come on, like I was contracting, trying to make a brownie. You've got to cut me some slack. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure they still tasted delicious.
They did. Yeah, they did.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. And she did so well. She's been great. Had a little nap.
She did.
Such a chill little gal.
She is. No. Hopefully all the chill yoga energy is passing on to her.
Did you want to share your socials? Is anyone welcome to reach out to you if they wanted to?
I'm on Instagram at simplehealth_ with Jaime. They can contact me there. I don't post that regularly, like on the sort of part
You've
of it.
had a baby.
I've had a baby. I do stories. I share baby stuff in my stories.
Fair enough.
But that's about it at the moment.
Awesome. Beautiful. Well, thank you again. And we will look forward to sharing with the world.
Yeah, I look forward to it.
Thank you for listening to the Breech Birth podcast. These stories matter. They stretch what we think we know and bring voice to experiences that need to be heard. I'm so grateful to the women who have shared their experiences with us, raw, real, and full of wisdom. If this episode resonated with you, please follow, share, or leave a review. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Breech Birth Podcast. And if you have a breech story to share, I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, may we continue to reclaim the narrative, one story at a time.